Okay, she be going every single night. Day and night on my mind, pushing you to vibe.
How's it going, everybody? This is Tyler Driver. Hope you're having another great day, and welcome back to another video. Alright folks, it's time for another edition of Bad Game Reviews. In this series, I talk about all the games that I have in my collection that are just plain bad. Whether it's the graphics or the gameplay or everything that's about it on the game, it's really just a bad game. So this series talks about all the games that are just plain bad in my collection. And today, the game that will get the unfortunate spotlight for this episode is The Italian Job. Now, this is actually one of two games that is based on The Italian Job, because as we all know, there are two different films based off of it. The one back in 1969 and then the other one back in 2003. This one focuses more on the 1969 film of The Italian Job. This one was released originally in 2001 in Europe, was acquired in America by Rockstar Games, and was published by them in 2002 with the helping of Paramount Pictures. Now, obviously, as you can see, there's the digital press sticker in the back of this game. You're going to see quite a few of those in some of my game reviews because I got a lot of these games from digital press, but still, this is just talking about a little bit about the 1969 version of the game. Now, before getting into the review of this, I'm going to talk a little bit about the plot of this because it's almost very similar to the 1969 film itself. Now, in the film, it talks about the life of a few British citizens that are living in a criminal underworld and have basically been tasked with trying to pull off one of the biggest heists in recent memory, in which a big event was taking place in Italy later that summer. So really the goal here was to try to pull off the biggest heist that they can possibly do. So over the course of the game, you'll be seeing them go through several training missions just to prepare for this, and then on the actual day they were able to successfully pull off the heist. But while they were in the middle of their escape, their bus unfortunately lost control and ended up being stuck near a cliffside near the end of the hill, and unfortunately it was really dangling by the very end of the game, and as a result the game ends up in a cliffhanger, and really we have no idea exactly what happens afterwards. So the game ends just like that. Again, this is almost very similar to the film. What you saw in the 1969 film, a very exact thing happens in the game as well. So I feel like that's one compliment that I really want to give them, is that they did a pretty decent job with being able to replicate exactly what happened during that 69 film into this exact game. Now, I don't know what the 2003 version of the film or the game was like. I haven't actually played the 2003 version of the game that I got back in December, but hopefully I'll check out a little bit of the film and then play a little bit of the game and see exactly what that's like. But I know it's probably the exact opposite as of this one, because I know that one is more an American version of it, while this is just based off in Great Britain back in the 1960s. So that is one compliment that I do have in regards to The Italian Job. But why is this in part of my bad game reviews today? Well, there are a few reasons why I can talk about that. First off, it's the difficulty. Early on, you get the sense that this game is actually really okay. You know, you're able to go through some missions fine, but once you get near the very end of the game just gets a lot harder. And for some reason, I really feel like that the game's missions are really a little bit more difficult than they should be. I say that because the story mode is actually less than like an hour and a half if you're able to complete everything, but you know, at the same time, you know, it just feels like that there's just really a whole lot of obstacles that prevent you from being able to complete the game as quickly as it should be. And as a result, it really makes it feel like the game is a little bit harder than it should be, though. Maybe it has a little something to do with the fact that this was really my first time playing the game back all the way in August of last year, but still, you know, it really feels like the game could be a little bit more difficult than it was. So that's one problem. Another problem that I have is the very long loading times. Now, unfortunately, unlike in previous games, this game on the PS1, it takes way too long to load between one mission to the next, unfortunately. It can almost go up to a full minute sometimes before it finally successfully loads to the next level. And really, that's sort of an offense for those that really want to get straight into the action. Whenever you're building a video game, whether it's for a PS1 console or a new generation style of console game, you really have to make sure that the game loads fast enough so that way we get straight into the next mission and be able to continue on with the game. Here, I don't know exactly what happened here, but really the game just takes way too long sometimes to load. And I'm not the only one that experienced this. I've seen several reviews where several of them have also complained that the loading time for this game takes a lot longer than it should be. And that's one problem that I think that really exists in this game, is that it's really a lot longer to be able to get to the next mission. And really, most of the time time, at this point in time, whenever you're playing a video game on a separate console like the PlayStation or Xbox, a loading time for a game should really take you no less than 10 or 15 seconds, not 30 or more. And unfortunately, this game takes a little too long that it should be able to move on to the next mission, or even just get back to the main menu screen. The next problem is the graphics. Now again, this was in 2002, and this was around the time that the PlayStation 1 was becoming completely obsolete, almost very similar to what I talked about when I reviewed All-Star Racing. And this game's graphics are probably slightly worse than when I reviewed All-Star Racing. And I mean, really, you talk about wanting to see actual damage in this game, you barely even recognize any of the damage that was done if you end up getting in an accident, all because the graphics look just completely cruddy. Like I said before, around this time, the PS1 was really starting to become obsolete, and so really a whole lot of video games for the PS1 during the last couple of years of its lifespan were really starting to lack in graphic quality, and unfortunately this one was really no different. I mean, you look at it, it looks like this is a game that probably was just made at the very last second. And that's really on the developers themselves, you know. Whenever you're making a PlayStation 1 game, the graphics, especially when it's during the latter part of its lifespan, really needs to look a lot better. And unfortunately, the graphics here, they just look extremely bad. It's also very hard to be able to control your car as well, and really just see exactly what kind of damage is done as a result of that. I mean, it still looks like the car is basically intact, even after it's completely totaled. And so that's really a really bad thing. You know, guys that really play a lot of games like this, they want to see damage, and unfortunately you don't get that here. The sound in this game really is completely awful too. You know, there are a few times in this game when you're heading up to full speed as well, and really it feels like that you're about to blow a motor or something like that, because it always goes like that, something like that. It just stays like that for such a long time. Plus, your car is basically almost the only car that you hear. I mean, really, like in any of the air missions, you can barely hear any of the other cars that are going around you. Most of the time though, it's just that horrible sound that you hear that's coming out of your car whenever you are driving at a fast rate of speed. Not only that, the music choice, I mean, it definitely does fit the landscape of, you know, like a British or Italian heist or something like that. So I mean, the audio when it comes to like the music and all of that, I mean, I'll let that off, but at the same time, it does feel like it is a little down at times, and maybe a little more happier looking than, you know, all the other Grand Theft Auto driver games and stuff like that. But this is probably more like a comedic game when it comes to, you know, like a criminal heist. So really, it just gives that more of a more funny feel or something like that. But still, at the same time, you know, audio, it just feels like it's just really weird, and more like, you know, it's like a bad racing movie as well. You know, it feels like a record scratch or something like that. It just feels like it's just really ear grinding, and unfortunately, it's just very bad. The sound in this game should have been a lot better. And finally, the presentation. If you combine everything together, this is a game that looks like it was just thrown together at the very last minute. I bet Rockstar did end up getting the rights to this game to release this in America, obviously, since this was first released in Europe back in 2001. But still, at the same time, for a Rockstar game, this really should be a game that they would be able to figure out, especially since they were at the same time releasing Grand Theft Auto 3 the year before, and that same year that they released this game, we're releasing Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So usually their graphics are a whole lot better than what you see here in this game. This is one of those very rare instances that Rockstar Games really dropped the ball when it comes to being able to create a really good game. And really, I just feel like that the overall presentation was lacking quite a bit. And unfortunately, you know, despite the fact that I was still able to complete the game, it took a lot longer than it should be. I feel like Rockstar should have been a lot better with being able to create a much more easier difficulty, and, you know, yes, create a more challenging factor to it, but really not as difficult in the way as it should be. And really, the loading times, like I said, you know, it really should not be taking that long for a game to load into the next level. I mean, that is one thing that is really bad about Rockstar Gaming. Again, those are things that you do not see out of Rockstar Games. And yeah, I really expected a lot better out of the Italian job. I saw this game while I was watching this on YouTube, watching the gameplay of it. I thought this game would be a whole lot easier to do, especially since, you know, being a PS1 game, and really a whole lot of the missions were really a lot quicker than it should be. Man, it was the exact opposite. It might be just me, but unfortunately, you know, this looks like a game that, you know, quality-wise, really just looks a whole lot like crap. And unfortunately, you know, the Italian job when it comes to PS1 game just looks completely terrible. Again, I do not know exactly what the 2003 version of the game is like. I really would like to play a little bit of it and see what it looks like, but I'm just going off of what I saw in the PS1 game. The film and, you know, the game itself, you know, they both have the same plot, and again, that's one thing that I praise them on. They managed to do a good job of replicating what happened in the film here in the game, but at the same time, when it comes to, like a quality audio presentation and really just all the other stuff that makes a car chase game a lot more fun than it should be, this is a game that really was made a whole lot more difficult. If you really think you can be able to defy those odds and try the challenge job for the PS1, hey, definitely go give it a shot. Some players might find this game a little easier than others, but I'm just basing this off of my experience. This was definitely a very brutal game, and just by the looks of itself, if you exclude the difficulty, it's definitely a game that you definitely might want to pass on. I like it when games try to replicate films. It's definitely one of those more positive factors about video games, because whenever there was a film, you would definitely try to see a video game replica of it, but this was one that was like, it was just poorly made. Unfortunately, although I did complete the game and I did try my best to make it as good as it should be, unfortunately, it's all these reasons why I think the challenge job for the PS1 is a really bad game. So I know some of you might disagree with me when it comes to this game, so let me know what you think about this game and if you have played this before and what you think about it as a whole, and more importantly, what game would you like for me to review next, whether it's a bad game or a good game or something like that, any kind of game review, you name it. Feel free to let me know down in the comments below, and I'll be more than interested in seeing your suggestions, and maybe I'll see exactly what other game in my collection I can review based off of them. Alright, that's gonna do it for another video, and I'm really excited about next week, because next week is going to be the week of my 100th video. So it won't be a midweek video next week, but I am planning something special for my 100th video, and really a lot of that's going to be because of you. I would like for you guys to decide what you would like for me to do for my 100th video. So stay tuned to my social media. I'm going to give you some suggestions on what you think I should do for my 100th video, and whoever gets the most suggestions, I will make for my 100th video. So stay tuned to my social media. I'm going to give you a little bit of details of what you think you can let me do for my next video, and it's going to be a very exciting time next week. I cannot wait to reveal my 100th video. It's going to be a lot of fun. Otherwise, that's going to do it for another video. I hope you all enjoyed it. As always, if you'd like to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when my latest video is released. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so every new subscriber helps. As always, comment below for future suggestions for any of my videos, whether it's vlogs, projects, or challenges, or video game content like this one. You name it, leave it in the comments below and I'll do my best to make them. As always, follow me in my social media. All the links are in the description below. That's going to do it for another video. Hope you're having another great day. I look forward to seeing you all next week for my 100th video. It's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, and one more thing. Stay away from this game. So long, everybody.